Interaction, Canada Sportsbook.
Welcome back, everybody, to Game Over Ottawa. I forgot to mute the stream on my end, so I think that might have bled through a little bit, but we got it now. Maude and Charlie back once again to review another Senators loss, unfortunately, tonight. But hey, at least it's not as bad as the last one that you had to sit through, eh, Charlie?
Yeah, this one was a later game, but I'll take a later tight game than a 7-0 loss. Oh my God. I'm just happy that I was originally supposed to have my buddy Justin on for that, and he's an Avs fan, but he's on vacation, so he couldn't make it.
That's
so that's
right.
probably a good thing. I didn't have to listen to him gloat about a 7-0 win.
Yeah, that would have been awkward as hell after a game like that. But yeah, just tough game for the Sens today. Like, I feel like halfway through the game, I was feeling pretty negative overall, and now I'm not sure whether or not I want to try to spin any positive takes today, because I feel like they did battle hard overall.
Yeah, that was a real bummer of a first period, and I was like, I don't know, I was done with the game, I think, after the first period, and then typical Sens. Right, start really strong. Shots are 5-1. It feels good. Down by a goal immediately following that, they just don't play the rest of the first period, and then they show up for the last 40.
Exactly. It kind of felt like flashbacks to that big losing skid in November, where we play really well and outshoot the other team, and then we don't tie it with the goalie pulled. It was just another one of those games. But we'll get into that some more after we have a word from our sponsor.
Think you know which way it's going to go? Make your bet with Sports Interaction. Whether it's hockey, football, or basketball, Sports Interaction has you covered. Bet pre-game, live and play, or on one of our many prop bets. Sports Interaction makes it easy to deposit, play, and cash out. Join now and see all that sports betting has to offer. Head to sportsinteraction.com/SDPN. That's sportsinteraction.com/SDPN. 19 plus, please play responsibly.
All right, so as I said about maybe trying to spin positive narratives, I wanna ask you if you had to pick like one thing out of this game that looked good to you, that you'll take out of this game and maybe have a bit of a positive narrative. Was there anything that stuck out to you?
I think JBD had his best NHL game.
Yeah,
I think that's a big one. Other than the usual stuff, the whole team looks terrible. And when the whole team looks terrible, the usual suspects look good. Stützle looks good. Sanderson looks good. Kachuk usually looks pretty good in those scenarios. So the first period overall, I think basically everyone but Sanderson and JBD looked horrible in the first period, more or less. But then, yeah, like I think Jacob Bernard-Docker had, without a doubt, his best NHL game. So I'm gonna take that as my main positive takeaway from this one.
Yeah, I liked that Sportsnet had a little highlight reel of him after the second period too. I don't know which broadcast you were watching, if you saw that, but that was nice of them to highlight the strong defensive plays that he had tonight, especially for a rookie player. It's usually rookie defensemen, play a pretty quiet game, just trying to fit in, right? So it was nice that they found some good clips to show of him. He had some huge shot blocks tonight, and he didn't end up getting an assist on the only Sens goal, but he was actually key on the breakout. Made a good read, saw that we were going to get the puck, and jumped up in the play at the right time, and ended up getting the shoot in on that play. So yeah, it was just an awesome game from JBD.
Yeah, really, really happy with that. Yeah, like you said, really great defensively. He had that really great outlet pass to, I think it was Stützle, from like the right side of the defending blue line all the way up to the left side of the offensive blue line. I think it was Stützle on that play. So just all around, yeah, really, really good game from him.
Yeah, I think we're getting to a point in the season where we have to be kind of focusing a lot more on these young guys. And as we've said many times, getting more guys up from Belleville to get looks at them. So I think this is super encouraging from JBD. Like, as a rookie, you can't expect every game to be that good from him, but we should definitely be giving him an extended run of games at this point to see just where he's at and how consistent he can be. Like, it does worry me a little bit that since Zaitsev is injured, that they might just put him back in when he's back, and then, because obviously Zub will come back in. I don't think there was any updates on his injury after last game, was there? Do you know?
I didn't see anything. I did see that they were talking about leading up to when was it like? So I know they were talking about like putting Zaitsev with Shabbat again while Zub's out, but I guess with Zaitsev hurt, it's not happening. But God, you want a negative takeaway? I'll throw a
Yeah,
negative
go for
takeaway.
it. Go for it.
Shabbat looked awful. Like worse than, I mean, it's a rough season for him anyway, but like worse than usual, I think.
Yeah, it's just his decision making, right? And the speed that he's thinking the game and seeing the game just feels like a second
Yeah.
too late all the time, I think. Like, we praised JBD, but like in the first period especially, I felt like that pairing was just kind of bobbling the puck a bunch and messing up their passes, and they were under pressure from the opposing forwards a lot, and I didn't think they were dealing with it too great. Obviously, they got better as the game went on, but you're right, JBD was definitely the guy kind of carrying the pairing tonight, and that's not what you want to see.
Yeah. That's the thing too, right? Like I know like everyone already loved Zub coming into this season, obviously, and as much as it kind of started as a meme, right? And then just this guy ends up being the best like shutdown guy they have. Shabbat like really needs him, and even as good as JBD is, like I do think JBD has the potential to be like a top, like your defenseman on your number one PK. But yeah, I don't know if it's just a matter of Shabbat be like overthinking. Like I'm paired with a rookie, I need to, overthink every play because of that. I don't know what the problem is there, but yeah, Zub needs to come back again.
Yeah, just tough luck with injuries for this guy. I feel so bad for him this year. As well, with Shabbat, like I was really only half watching the last game against Colorado, and then I shut it off after 4-0. Like, would you say he was really bad in that game too? I think I saw a lot of people on Twitter, a lot of the Shabbat criticism after last game as well.
Yeah, I mean everyone looked awful. Like I don't think there's like, in this game, even including the first period, I think you can take away, okay, a few players looked phenomenal. I don't, there was zero positive takeaway from last game.
Yeah.
Like, none.
Yeah, I guess maybe even to the point where you can't even like pick out a specific guy. There's like, oh, he was definitely really bad, like way worse than everyone else said.
Yeah.
Just everyone.
I couldn't even be like, this guy sucked, but he tried. No, there was like zero effort across the board. And yeah, so this game was much nicer. By the way, we're gonna throw in another fun little negative tidbit. I don't know if you heard about this, but that was the St. Louis Blues' 2000th win in franchise history. So
God.
What a Sens move to let that happen.
Sens love giving out milestones. I was shocked on the topic of milestones. I was shocked that Ovi didn't get the goal to pass Gordie Howe against the Sens when he had the chance earlier this year.
I really thought that was going to happen. I was ready to put money on that.
Yeah, and also still on the topic of JBD, I'm thinking if Zub is back relatively quickly, and ideally they keep JBD in over Zaitsev, who do you think comes out? Do you think Holden?
That's tough. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, definitely want to keep JBD in. Ideally, Zaitsev doesn't come back in. If Zaitsev and Zub come in, and then JBD is sent down, I'm going to be furious.
Yeah, that would piss me off.
I think it has to be Holden, right?
I think so.
I don't want to take Brandstrom out, who should be getting second unit time, honestly, and isn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. I think it's got to be Holden.
Yeah, and then
the number 7.
Then if you keep. No, I guess you wouldn't keep Shabbat and JBD probably. You'd probably go back to Shabbat and Zub. And then maybe Sanderson with JBD. That's the interesting thing, is I feel like the coach wants to keep like at least a veteran on every pair. So I don't know if he would want 2 rookies, Sanderson and JBD, or like Brandstrom and JBD. He probably wouldn't trust that either. So yeah, it'll be really interesting to see. Like obviously it depends how long Zub is out for, but that's an interesting conundrum.
Yeah, I think Sanderson JBD would be a lot of fun. I like that a lot more than Sanderson Hamonic. Actually, I honestly even like Hamonic Brandstrom more than JBD and Brandstrom. So I think Sanderson JBD has the potential to be a lot of fun. And honestly, that could be a pairing for the 5+ years. That would be
Yeah, that would be
that could be
sweet.
a really nice pair.
If that could be consistent for the next 5 years, we're probably in pretty good shape
Yeah,
at
'cause
that
I think
point.
I think what was it us talking about? Like, what's your ideal defensive partner for Sanderson? And I think we both landed on defensive.
Hmm.
JBD might be perfect.
Yeah, I'm thinking like if I had to compare what I see in JBD to anyone, I honestly feel like he's kind of like Dylan DeMello, which is a guy that we miss at this point. So if he can be like Dylan DeMello, that's good. That would be perfect.
Could you imagine a Sanderson DeMello pairing right now?
Or even if we still
Oh, that'd
had
be
him with
perfect.
Shabbat, then I feel like that would make Shabbat look a
Yeah.
lot better. That would help him
Sanderson
out.
Zub as a second pair.
Oh man.
Oh, what could have been? But the Sens really needed that what the third round pick, I think.
Yeah, I
Is
think
that
it
what
was a
the trade
third.
was?
I wonder who we picked with that, but I I have no clue. It's
If you want to fill in some airtime here, I'll look.
you want to look it up. Yeah, that trade of Dylan DeMello is just one that I remember everyone finding really weird at the time. Like most people excused it as like it's a UFA, so he probably didn't want to sign or whatever. But it's not like he's a guy that would have cost a lot of money. And like considering the D that we have played like since trading DeMello up until now, it's like he's still better than most of them.
So it could be all right. It was actually Levi Merlinen
Okay, so that's
who
not too bad.
struggled with Kingston last season, but
I think
currently
he's
is
doing well this
playing.
year.
Yeah, 9-15 through 22 games in Liga. So maybe that's all right.
At
Maybe.
least it's something. At least it's still an asset, and it's
Yeah,
not like a guy who isn't trending up at all. That's weird
exactly.
though to do kind of poor in the OHL and then go to Liga and then do way better. That's kind of funny.
That is really strange. Yeah, you think he'd be going because he went into Kingston for probably what his age 19 season, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe even his age 20. I don't remember what. I should probably let me double check. What year was he? Because he was drafted. So he was a 2020 pick. So that was 18, 19. Yes, that was his age 20 season, and he struggles. And that was a. Oh no, never mind. He's a late birthday. He's an August birthday. So it was his age 19. So now he's in his age 20
Nah,
season
he's
and
20.
kind of
Okay,
crushing it.
nice.
He's kind of crushing it in Liga, which is
That's good to see because I feel like other than what's his name, Sogard, I feel like we're a little bit weak on the goalie prospects right now.
hey, you know who the top scoring defenseman on his team is?
Oh, okay, wait.
David Rundblad.
I was gonna say
Oh,
I was
sorry.
gonna say David Rundblad.
I believe you. I believe you. I believe you. I think
Yeah.
we had there's a slight lag there. My bad. I'm
Oh my
sorry.
god.
I
Because
wanted,
I was about to ask
oh,
you, is it a former Sen? And then he was going to be the first thing out of my mouth.
yeah.
Although I am
Oh,
a little bit surprised that he's still playing. I thought he would be kind of. Actually, I guess his rookie year when he came here was probably like 2011, right? So he's probably not that old. I'm just.
yeah. He's
I feel old
32.
because it was so long ago that he was property of
Yeah.
the Senators. That makes me feel old, but he's not actually old.
Yeah. God, he's only about 6 years older than me. That makes me feel old.
Yeah. Stanley Cup champion David Rundblad.
That's right. 2015. Wow.
That's my favorite fact about him. I have to call him
Oh,
Stanley Cup champion every time.
him and Vermette.
Yeah. Oh, was that on the same team? It was, wasn't it?
I'm pretty sure Vermette was Vermette 15 or 13. I think he was
Mm,
15. I think that was like the very end of his career.
yeah. I think something like that. But yeah,
Was it Vermette? Let's see. It was Vermette,
it
yeah.
was. Yeah.
Antoine Vermette, who had 3 points in 19 games with Chicago,
Hmm.
but then the playoffs had 7 points in 20. So,
Okay.
well, okay. All right.
Well, since we mentioned goaltending there a little bit with Merlinen, I'll shift it over to the goaltending that's on the Sens currently. Like, I feel like we have to at
Yeah.
least discuss.
I hear you through all that, luckily. Yeah, that was real. Honestly, even the first goal felt a little soft. But that one especially.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna see Steve
Yep.
on Dang It's with his
That's
that
exactly what
was
I was thinking.
just brutal. Yeah, and I mean, like, not the worst game other than that first period for
Mm-hmm.
Talbot, like solid throughout. And I guess at the end of the day, like he still had a 900 save percentage, so it's not the worst, but those are two, at least one you should never give up, probably two.
Yeah,
That first one still felt a little. That neighbor's goal was a little weak.
I feel like if we came back and won this game, I wouldn't even say anything about Talbot.
Oh yeah,
Maybe just in a sort of like lighthearted manner, poking fun at that one goal, but just the fact that that ended up being the game-winning goal, it just stings. And
yeah.
sort of on the topic of Talbot, I wanted to bring up because Trevor
Oh, I
Shackles
know where this
tweeted,
is going.
yeah, he tweeted just Philip
Ugh.
Gustafson's hockey DB stats, and I saw you replying to that earlier today. So I wanted to pick your brain on how you're currently feeling about that trade.
Gustafson wouldn't have nearly those stats on the Sens.
Yeah,
Minnesota is much better defensively. I don't know if I don't know how they are as a whole, like where they stand as far as defense goes, but they're definitely better than the Sens.
definitely.
Um, Without a doubt,
Even though they're considering dumping Dumba and we'll pick him up apparently.
oh, which will probably just help Gus.
Yeah, literally.
That's a whole other thing I want to talk about too. But yeah, the whole yeah. So that's upsetting. I mean, I feel like if that trade had never happened, it's just as likely that their stats are flipped as well.
I think so too.
Also, yeah, Gus is getting a lot more starts than I expected him to get.
Yeah,
I have to say.
I guess
I don't know if
because
I mean, Fleury's old, but
yeah,
like,
that's what I was gonna say. Just Fleury getting up
yeah,
there in age is probably the main reason, and obviously like Gus does have pretty good results, but yeah, I didn't expect him. I
yeah,
expected him to be kind of like a 20 game backup, but he might already have 20 appearances. I'm not even sure, or close to that.
yeah. That's a good question. I think it was at like does it say like 22 games
I
played or
I do have it
something?
open at 17.
17. Okay, so yeah, he's getting up there.
Yeah, and he played 18 for the Sens last year and was at 892, so it's almost the same sample size. But yeah, that's what going from the Sens to a team that can actually defend will do for your stats. I
Which
do
is so
I
yeah,
do think though it'll be interesting to follow after Fleury is out of Minnesota if they try to go to Gus as the starter, because I think that will then be when we can really judge the trade at that point. If Gus is able to become a good
yeah,
starter on Minnesota, then it's going to be looking rough. But if he stays kind of as their backup or 1B, then I'm not mad about it. Because I understood
yeah.
the rationale of the move at the time to bring in Talbot. Like
Hmm.
Gus was just so inconsistent here that Talbot you feel like is more of a goalie that can cover up a team's like defensive warts. We've seen that earlier in the season, like that game against Boston where they had like 25
Yeah,
shots in the third period and we still won. Not as much of that tonight as he had the one mistake, but I get the rationale in that trade still. So I'm not mad about it yet, but it could become one that we're looking back on.
yeah. What scares me is the fact that yeah. So through 17 games, like we've said, Gus has a 925. He's also only 24 years old.
Yeah, still young.
So trading a 24-year-old who puts up a 925 save percentage looks bad, but trading a 23-year-old at the time who put up an 892
Yep.
for a well-established, granted older, but well-established, solid starting caliber goalie looked great at the time. So even if this trade turns into a nightmare, I don't think you can ever fault the strategy behind it.
It it kind of gives me Ben Bishop vibes, except that Bishop was performing better for the Sens before we traded him.
Yeah, that
Although Gus was kind of expected to be like the starter, like the top goalie prospect for a couple of years there.
yeah.
So just hoping it doesn't turn out like that, but it kind of that's in the back of my mind. The Ben Bishop trade is a little bit in the back of my mind for sure.
Fun fact, I first heard about the Ben Bishop trade because your sister was on her phone in science class and just fucking yelled, Ben Bishop was traded to the Lightning. And I was like being the nice student because I was like, I think it was, I don't know if it was on trade deadline day. It must have been
I
like
think it
around the
was.
time.
Yeah.
And so I was being the good kid who was really struggling in science, trying to pay attention and not be on my phone. So like I got the news from her.
Oh
So
my god. That's such a Megan
uh,
thing to just yell that out in the middle of class.
yeah.
Shout out to her. Shout out to my sister Megan. Yeah.
informing me of Ben Bishop trades.
Yeah,
So
that I think that was one of the first things you mentioned when we met after we got the hosting jobs. You're like, is that your sister? And you remember specifically that moment.
yeah, that's a very clear yeah. God, could you imagine how cool? I mean, we love Greg Anderson, obviously.
Hmm.
That's a player that I'm not on board with retiring the number, but definitely like put him up with Redden.
Yeah,
Um, but how fun would have been like those 5 years where Bishop and Leonard were both healthy if
mm.
those were the guys that the Sens held on to.
That was kind of before most teams kind of started switching to the tandem goalie setup. So it would have been interesting to see at the
Yeah,
time. That would have been a killer tandem if you had both those guys, both those young guys just competing. That definitely would be an interesting alternate future because Andy was always that guy, kind of like I said about what they were thinking for Talbot. He was always that guy who could definitely bail out the young team and just make 50
yeah,
saves on any given night. But it would have been interesting to
exactly.
have
Yeah,
those two top young goaltenders battling it out as well.
yeah. Can we talk about? So I want to go back. Can we talk
Mhm.
about the Dumba rumors
Oh
and
yeah,
everything?
yeah.
Because I think it's so funny that like fans of the team are online being like, all right, so here's what we should do. Just like blow up the bottom six, call up Greg and Sokolov and just see what the kids have. And management's like, we need to get like Dumba or Klingberg. Like it's
Yeah.
just like completely different trains of thought. I don't think I've seen that much talk about Klingberg, but like honestly, like if the Sens are looking at a rental who's going to potentially move the needle a bit, like that makes sense. Anaheim's going to be selling off everyone not named Zegras, Drysdale, and McTavish. So like that, he's going to be on the board for sure.
Yeah.
Um, God, it's just
Uh,
we've been here several times where I say the season's done, and then the Sens win like 3 out of 4, and I go, well, maybe, and then they lose, and I go, it's done, and it keeps going back and forth. At this point, please don't trade the first round pick,
oh my God. If the
please.
first gets traded, we will be like screaming at the camera on this show. That's the
I
worst thing they could
can't.
possibly do is specifically that first round pick. Like
Yeah,
I don't know what you're trading for a rental other than picks, but that first needs to stay in this draft.
yeah. Not to give too much away about our schedule, but you are booked for the first game the day after the trade deadline. So if
Oh,
something horrible happens, I might have to jump on that one
yeah.
as well,
We'll have
and we'll
to
just lose our minds.
we'll have to look out for that for sure.
The
Yeah.
Sens are going to trade a first, get John Klingberg. He's going to go 0 points and a -3 in that loss to Columbus the next day, and we're going to lose
Oh,
our
versus Columbus as well.
minds. Can you imagine?
Oh my God, that's the
Oh,
nightmare scenario for the deadline. But yeah, I actually had a couple tweets saved here on this topic of rentals at the deadline.
okay.
We had NHL Watcher. He had the tweet, or not the tweet, the quote from Friedman in his tweet. I guess it was from the 32 Thoughts podcast, and he was saying that despite where the Sens are in the standings, like he still expects the Sens to go out and get a rental, specifically a defenseman, which I think it has everyone
Is this like a
thinking.
statement? Or has it just been like we're trying?
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
The reasoning that Friedman said was to show the players and fans that they won't coast the rest of the season and compete as hard as they can. But I feel like you
you
can
want to
do
see some
that.
compete? Call up the kids that are going to
Yeah,
fight for a roster spot next year.
you can do that with what we
Like,
currently have already. You don't need to
yeah,
bring in outside pieces to show us that you're competing and that you care. Like, at least
yeah.
try to make the changes that you can within the organization at the current moment before going
Like,
wasting assets to go outside, you know?
yeah. Come March, if because at that point, I don't know how many games are going to be left. Like, whenever that happens, 2025, if that.
Yeah.
So come March and the trade deadline's upon us, and this sends like we're going to get that defenseman rental when say there's 20 games left and you're 15 points out. Like that's just call up a few guys and see what you got for next year.
Hmm.
Like you just got to call it at that point. Like
I
that's
think
so. If they make the move in the next like 10-ish days, fine. That's a bit more understandable.
mhm.
But even then, like, listen, 19, 21, and 3 past the halfway point
Yeah,
of the season.
2 games below
Just
500 now. God.
don't buy. Like, don't buy. Come on. It's just bad asset management. Just flat out.
Yeah, for sure. And the other tweet that I wanted to read is a little bit of friendly fire here because it's STPN zone Adam Wild. He had quote tweeted the tweet that I was just paraphrasing, and he said that this is the right call. If they go on a run to get in and get the players back from injury, you never know. And he says like the Sens have done this type of thing before, going on a late season run. But I just had to call you out there, Adam, because we're not vibing with that take.
Listen, I think we both like Talbot and Forsberg enough. Neither one of them is the Hamburglar.
Yeah,
There's like
exactly.
it's not gonna happen. Like it happened once, and then the Sens lost in 6 in the first round. It was a fun run, but like who gives a shit? In 2015, so Sens were January. I wouldn't upset myself thinking about who they could have had in that first round, like in that draft.
In the Hamburglar,
you know what I mean?
The Hamburglar year.
Yeah, if not for that Hamburglar run in yeah.
So that was the McDavid draft.
It was the McDavid draft.
Yes. So if no run happens, McDavid or Eichel, right? Potentially.
Yeah.
Potentially, if we stay.
Because that first round was so stacked.
Yeah.
That first round is unreal. Absolutely unreal draft.
I'm trying to remember, was it Dylan Strome who went third? Yeah.
Yes.
But
yes,
then Marner, Hannafin, and you got some other guys then for the rest of the top 10. So there's a couple not quite elite players, but yeah, that looking back on the Hamburglar run is kind of funny like that, because it's like we could have gotten a superstar player if that didn't happen. But it was also some of the best memories that we've had the last 10 years.
Say the Sens picked what, like 10th, give or take, somewhere around there. Mm-hmm. Say they maybe played 500 on the rest of the season, like they still still overachieving and playing 500, just not having a goalie who goes 21, 2, and 1 or whatever the hell it was that he went. Past, you got like guys like Timo Meier, Mikko Rantanen, a couple busts, not full on busts. Like Austin Krause is having a good season with Arizona, but then they got Dennis Gurianov, then Zboril, DeBrusk, Senyshyn, then you got that run following Boston, right? Barzal, Connor, Shabbat.
The Boston run.
Eriksson Ek, Brock Besser, Travis Konechny,
Colin White that year, I think.
Colin White and Shabbat, yeah.
Oh, both. That's right. It was both in the same draft.
Yeah. God, Travis Konechny having a hell of a season with the Flyers.
I remember everyone wanted him in that draft year. He was a couple,
I did too. I went to a lot
after,
of
right?
Yeah, I went to a lot of 67s games those years just because we got my mom and I went to like just about every home game, because that was during the time that Lansdowne was being fixed up. So they were playing at CTC, and so being in Barhaven, we're going to take advantage of these cheap tickets. That's a 20-minute drive instead of a drive downtown, right? So watching Konechny, granted on an awful team, so he stood out a lot, so that probably made my bias a bit stronger, but he looked so good with the 67s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he's finally putting it all together this year. It's a little bit unexpected, but he was still a really good player before that.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So all that to say, Adam Wild, you're wrong, dude. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, Adam.
We're not feeling that take from Adam.
Can we
not feeling the rentals vibe this year. And kind of on the same topic, but a little bit different, just to close it out here. In terms of when I think of a rental, I'm like, you must think that you have a shot at the playoffs in some capacity at least, right? The next 2 games are both against Pittsburgh, who are currently in the final wildcard spot. And they're tied with the Islanders as well, who got a point tonight. And then which was against Washington, who is the other wild card. So they got 2 points and the Islanders got 3. At this point, the Sens are now 9 points out of a playoff spot, and both games are against Pittsburgh. So if you don't win both, you're screwed. There's no chance. Like, I think these next 2 games are definitively like where we will actually get a little bit of hope if we win both games, but probably not. And this is probably going to be where we stick a fork in the Sens, because Pittsburgh winning both, or even just winning one, then it's like a 10 or 11 point gap at that point. Winning both, it's like 12 or 13 points. So this is the time for the Sens. They got to step it up, give us some hope against Pittsburgh. Otherwise, I'm totally out.
Yeah, no, you're completely right. And the problem is there probably are a lot of people that agree with Adam. Just like I'm pretty sure they've talked about this on the SDP a few times, but the St. Louis Blues have ruined bad seasons for everyone. Because everyone like, we have a shot. It can happen. St. Louis Blues did it that one time, the one time it's ever happened.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Sens fans, especially because Sens fans are like, everyone, like, the Blues, it was 2019. It's in very recent memory. So everyone's like, well, the Blues did it. And the Sens have the Blues did it. Also the Hamburglar run. So like, I think
got both.
As pessimistic as this fan base is, it's a lot of pessimism with like, but it could happen.
We've seen these weird miracles before, but you can't count on that, right?
Yeah. I don't think and that's the thing too. Like, just looking on them on paper, that Blues team was deep. It was an underachieving team.
Yeah,
the Sens are an underachieving team, but they're not nearly as deep.
No way. Not even close. No shot.
And I mean, that was also a miracle run from Binnington too, right? And I don't think the Sens have any goalies with a miracle run built in them this season. So
yeah, you have Hamburglar in one and Binnington in the other. He was doing basically the same thing.
Yeah.
So
they don't have it. Yeah. I think he just gotta. I don't want to say sell anyone, because honestly, all the pieces that the Sens should want to hold on to are locked up for a good bit of time. So.
Mm-hmm. If you can get anything for like Brassard or Watson, then do that.
Yeah.
But otherwise,
grab a fifth,
no. Yeah.
Whatever. Yeah. I'm hoping for a very quiet trade deadline.
It should be, ideally.
Yeah.
But yeah, just to wrap it up, with 4 losses in the last 5 games now, the Sens are getting closer to bottom 5 in the league than they are to a wild card spot at this point. So like I said, the next 2 games against Pittsburgh, very crucial. I don't want to go full team tank, so I am hoping that we can at least win the first game against Pittsburgh and give us a slight bit of hope. Maybe we can beat them twice,
right,
and then get right back in that little spot of we're kind of close, but I don't have much optimism at this point.
No, we listen, we got some fun games that mattered in January. I think that's all we could ask for at this point.
That's more than we've had the last 5 years. So it can't be too bad overall.
I was thinking about that as well, how like this is the highlight of the last 5. This empty, awful feeling is the highlight of the last 5 years. So
oh my god.
Anyway, we'll end it on that.
Yeah. Sad stuff here tonight, but hopefully we can get a little bit more to cheer about in the next game against Pittsburgh. I'll be back for that one. Everyone, thank you for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe to SDPN. Have a good night, everyone.
Game over! Powered by Sports Interaction, Canada Sportsbook.